Welcome to the No Dick Pics podcast. I'm Christina. Max is not feeling well, so he will not be joining us today. I'm also not feeling well. That's why we didn't do one last week. My voice is like here and there. I have a little bit of a throat issue. So I've got some hot tea with me right now instead of my wine glass. But my mug is funny. My mug says, "There's a chance this is champagne." So that is from my sweet friend Erin. So very fitting. There is no champagne in there. I wish, God. I haven't had a drink in am I an alcoholic? I haven't had a drink in I don't know, at least a week more. I got sick last week, not too long after I got back from Kentucky. So I typically get sick when I travel. I try not to. I try to take precautions and avoid the sickness, but I couldn't do it this time, so I'm sick. I was kind enough to share my germs with Max, and now he is out of commission. So I'm probably less fun than I am on wine, but whatever. Tonight we have a guest. My friend Samantha is joining us. We've been trying to get her on for a few weeks. We just couldn't get our schedules to align, so we finally got them to align. I had to cancel last week because I was sick. So we're finally making it happen. And I was like, you know what? I know Max can't join us, but we're just going to do it anyway because we can't keep rescheduling this. So Samantha will be joining me shortly. I don't have a whole thing. I don't have a whole topic or a thing to discuss because it's just me. So I'm saving that for next week when Max is back. And we'll have an actual discussion and some funny clips and back to our normal, I guess, is he the funny one? No, don't tell him that. I'm the funny one. I just need someone to be funny with. I'm not a stand-up. So, yeah, we'll be back to our funny conversations next week, hopefully. Actually, we should for sure be back next week. So, yeah. But I don't have a lot to add. We're going to be on our back soon, so if you have questions for our ask or whatever, what am I calling it? Date therapy segment. If you have questions, if you want advice from an actual therapist, please send us some questions. We only have a few more episodes left this year, so we are going to do a couple more. We're going to do one more in October and then a couple in I was going to say Thanksgiving, a couple in November, and then we're going to be on break for the holidays. And so we'll be back in the new year after that, but we're going to end season 1 just before the end of the year, and then we'll be back with season 2 in 2025. So I have a plan. Guys. We'll see what actually happens, but because I've had a plan and things don't go according to plan 90% of the time. So that's my plan. We have a few more episodes left this year, so please be sure to tune in. Please be sure to send us your questions. Send us any advice you need help with. Any comments about us. That episode was hilarious. I love the questions. I loved the questions. I mean, I didn't answer most of them, but I loved the questions. So thank you for participating. Thank you for being interested in us and wanting to know more. But that was a lot of fun. So with that, I'm going to welcome Samantha in and we'll be back. So we'll be back right after this. I'd like to welcome Samantha to the No Dick Pics podcast. Welcome, Samantha.
Hi.
Hi.
Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. Thanks for joining me. I know we've been going back and forth a little bit trying to make this happen.
Yeah, life has just been odd the last couple of weeks. I feel like I've been talking to you for a month.
Right. Right. Yeah, we've been it's like one thing or another keeps happening. So, but that's just life. That's life with kids and all this.
All
So,
stuff, yes.
right. So I met you. Well, I haven't actually met you in person, but I know you through a mutual friend, Cindy.
Yes.
And we're in a single parents group together. So, tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I am a 36-year-old mom to a 16-year-old son. who makes me feel older every day, so that's amazing.
Don't do that.
Um, but at the same time, I'm in that moment now as a parent where I'm just kind of wishing for some of the younger days back.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Um, Especially
It's
as
so
he's
much
kind of
easier when they're younger. You think it's harder, but it's easier
yes,
for sure
yes.
because you, like, know where they are.
Well, it's not just knowing where they are, but like I feel like by this point in life, they've kind of solidified. Like they're making their own persona, they're making their own beliefs,
Yeah.
their own morals, all of those things, and that really isn't in any of the parenting handbooks about
No, it's
to
not.
how to talk to your teenager about these sorts of things and how to convey your side without making it sound like they have to conform to your ways. At least that's how I try to come from parenting. I want him to make
Mhm.
his own decisions and to be independent and
That's awesome.
all of that stuff. But at the same time, it's like you want a guide because it's like, wait, there's so many areas you can go to that are no nos.
Right, right. Exactly.
um, but yeah, so that's essentially me in parenting right now. I work night shift. I've been doing nights for about 11 years. My body is currently angry at me over that, but we're working on it.
So what do you do if you don't mind sharing?
So I am a pediatric respiratory therapist.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's awesome.
Yeah, and I've
Okay,
been doing
cool.
doing that for about 8 years now, and I love it. It's a high stress job for sure, and it takes its toll.
Mhm.
But I love my patients. I love my coworkers. I'm so blessed. In that respect that I at least have a good core group of people to work with. And Cindy was one of those team members that we worked together for, I believe, like 5, 6 years.
Oh, cool. So you, like,
Um,
knew her, like, not just from the group, you,
yeah,
like, actually knew her.
yeah. So
Okay,
like we
cool.
talked and all of that good stuff, and we bonded. I remember when she was pregnant with her youngest. It's
Oh,
actually when we first met. Was she was like 7 months pregnant at that point. So we bonded over all of that stuff, and she's been awesome to get to know over the years and all that. But yeah, so that's
awesome.
my job, and I do that about 2 to 3 nights a week. So trying to fit dating in there too. It's quite a balance sometimes.
So what is it like dating with a teenager?
It's interesting. Um, I've had boyfriends, longer term relationships with my son, and I've always been from a side of, I don't want my son to get potentially attached to someone who may not be there for whatever reason. Just to kind of spare some of that heartbreak as we want to do as parents. And a lot of my relationships, I waited until about 3 to 6 months in, where I was kind of like, okay, I like who you are as a person. I can deal with you being around my kid as an individual. I don't have a problem with you. You know what I mean? Like you kind of check
Yeah,
off all the basics for me as being a decent individual to be around my
right.
child. Um, and as far as the stability of the relationship, where it's like, I think we're solid right now. We've had, decent amount of time to get to know one another. I think this is going somewhere. Okay. I'm okay with this. And the same for the other person. I've had some guys that wanted to wait even longer than, when I was ready
Mhm.
because they were just like, it's a lot of pressure. I've never dated someone
Oh,
with
yeah,
kids
for sure.
before. So, in that respect, I always kind of introduced dates or boyfriends to him as, this is someone that I care about. I don't know if it's going to become anything, but, you can be friendly. We're just hanging out today. No pressure. And my son is very social butterfly. He just
Oh,
loves
that's
to
good.
meet people.
Mhm.
And unless you're an incredibly crappy person, my son will fall in love with you the second that he meets
Oh,
you, and he just wants to know everything about you. And that's how he is with everybody. So I kind of give people the fair warning that I'm like, even if you don't think that like you're gonna make it weird or whatever, he doesn't care. He just wants you to be happy. So, that's
that's
the other
awesome. So I was
yeah.
gonna say, how does he feel about it? Because I know some kids are, like, resistant to it, and they're like, "Mm,
I think it was easier for my son in particular because his dad and I were never together while he's been alive.
okay." Yeah.
We broke up when I was about 6 months pregnant. And so he's never seen us together. He's always grown up with two households. And his dad had a girlfriend right when he was born. So, he kind of already knew there was a different dynamic of relationship there. So that I think made it a lot easier.
Okay, yeah.
Um, but it is odd now with a teenager because they're starting their own journeys in dating life and all of
Right.
that. So now when he sees me go out, he's like, so how was it? Like he wants a whole breakdown when I come home where he's like, what's going on and this and that. And I'm like, this is just kind of odd, man. I don't know if I can talk to you about my dating woes.
Right?
Like,
I know my kids don't wanna hear about it. My kids are like, "No, you keep that to yourself, mom."
well, yeah,
My
like,
kids are older though,
oh
so
yeah, and, well, it's funny because he's kind of like, are you going to see them again? Like he'll ask me more of like the follow up questions than
yeah.
digging into like the issues and stuff. But after that, then he's kind of like, okay, let me know if things
Like your
change.
friend, like, "How'd it go?"
Exactly.
That's awesome.
Um,
My kids are like, "Don't tell me about it until it's serious. Thanks, bye."
exactly. That's when he wants to know like the bigger details when he's like ready to like hang out with them. I think some of
Yeah.
it just comes from a space of like he just wants to anticipate like, am I gonna meet this person? Do I have to like act a certain way? Like, unfortunately I've had some traumas and whatnot in my relationship that my son has
Mhm.
seen. So I think some of it comes off as a protective vibe from him too now because he's kind of like, I don't want anybody messing with my mom, where he's
That's
growing
good,
into
though.
that
Good
age
for
group
him.
though, too, where they're more mindful of their parents, or at least hopefully they are.
Right.
So it's been interesting because there have been a few contenders in the last couple of years. Um, and his attitude about some of them have been kind of like, eh, where I can kind of tell if he's excited about someone versus like more blah, but doesn't want to come out and say it. Like, I don't think you should see this person again or something.
How's his radar? Is
Um,
he
oh, he's
pretty
on
good?
point. He's on point. So,
So if he's not into something, you should be like, "Hmm,
oh yeah, we
maybe he
finally
sees something I don't."
exactly, we finally learned the lesson of his intuition
That's
was
good.
pretty on point. So that's the new test, I think, for people.
Yeah. Yeah. Let me see what my son thinks about you, and then we'll see.
Exactly. Um,
That's kind of a cool trick to have.
right. That's a cool party trick.
Right.
Here, meet my kid. He'll tell you if you're a shitty
Right.
person or not.
If we never talk again because he didn't approve. That's funny.
There's that, and then like I don't know, there's been a couple of scenarios that have happened that like he's asked about people to be like, so you're going out with this person. So like he'll follow up in a couple of days and be like, so how's this person doing? And it's kind of awkward when it's, a bad date or something because it's like,
Mhm.
again, I don't want to be telling my child about my personal stuff. So I just kind of glaze over the actual story. But some of these stories, man, are just I don't know what to do in dating anymore. I really don't.
Well, if you have actual questions and you want some advice, we're having a therapist on soon. So,
Awesome.
if you want to have a question answered by an actual therapist and not just me and Max, because we are just doing our best when we answer questions.
Yeah, for
We're
sure.
not professionals. She's professional. She gives some good advice. So,
Definitely
she'll
interested
be
in
on in a
that.
few weeks.
Yeah,
So, I'll let you know when she's on if you have any questions.
look forward to that. I'll have to think of
Awesome. Yeah.
um
So, do you have any stories for I mean, I know what you do, but
so I thought about this because there's been quite a few
yeah,
throughout
I'm
the
sure.
years. Because I've never been married, so I've only ever known the dating scene.
Okay.
Um, which is a good and a bad thing in and of itself, I think. Um, especially now too. I don't know what it is, but I feel like in the last like 5 to 10 years, suddenly like almost everybody in the dating pool is divorced or has like all of this traumatic relationship past now,
Yeah.
and now they're like fresh on the scene, fish out of water. And I'm like, I don't know how to guide you at all in this process, sir. Like I feel like you need more help than I can offer. So
Like, I'm just here
um
to date. I'm not here to give you therapy.
exactly, where I'm like,
Right.
I like as a person I want to help, but I don't want to date you now. Like now that you've shared some of your issues so candidly. Because I think that's what blows me away now too is some people just have like no filter or thought process in what they're saying during dating. That I'm like,
Mhm. That's me.
You know, because the first story that I thought about was a guy that I'd met on Hinge, and because Hinge was recommended to me by a friend, and it worked out for her. They've been together for 4 years now, and they look adorable together, and I'm so happy
Oh.
for her. So I was like, okay, let's do it. I get on there, I meet this guy. We talked for maybe a couple of days, just very back and forth, you know, some tongue in cheek flirting, nothing crazy
Mhm.
though. So I was like, okay. So he said that he was in the military on like a naval base somewhere in Chicago. I don't know. I can't remember
Okay.
where. It could have been Wisconsin too, for all I remember. But we ended up deciding to meet up in like a middle spot of like a bar we found. So we get there, or I get there first, and I mean, I'm like maybe 15, 20 minutes early because I'm that kind of girl. I like to, instead of doing all of my makeup in my home like a normal person, I like to bring it with me in my car and do it like 2 minutes before I'm about to walk out for
Hey,
my date.
that's actually not the worst idea because then it's, like, fresh and perfect and
That was
ready
my
to go.
process, is
There you
that
go.
way
I like it.
it looks the nicest and I can't touch it in that
Right.
time frame of me leaving the home. So that's why I was there a little bit early anyway. And I called him and I was like, hey, I'm here. Do you want me to wait outside for you? Do you want me to go in? And he was like, no, just wait for me. I'll be there in like 5, 10 minutes. And I was like, okay, I can wait. And eventually he asked me what type of car I was driving, like what I was sitting in. And I said, oh, it's a black Jeep. And he goes, okay. And I said, well, what are you driving? And he goes, oh, you'll know.
Oh,
And I'm like, what does that mean? I'm like,
right?
you driving off in a
Will I?
in a pink Corvette? Like
Right.
what am I about to experience here? And he was like, oh, it's a surprise. And I was like, I don't know why, but this makes me feel uncomfortable, but okay.
Right.
So he pulls up eventually, and he's in a truck with the bed open and 3 dogs.
He brought dogs with him on the date?
Yes. Mind
Oh.
you, this was also July
Oh.
and an indoor bar.
Oh.
I was like, what? Did I misunderstand something? Like were we supposed to go to a different bar? Like,
Did you wanna go to a dog park?
right, I was like, all right. And so he pulls up and stuff. And so I say hi to the dogs and whatnot. And he goes, okay, come on, let's go. And like motions toward the door for me to go into the bar. And I'm like, you're just going to leave them out here? And he's like, yeah, it's fine. And I'm like, it's like 78 degrees out right now.
Mm,
And I was like, do they
yeah.
have water? And he's like, no, but they're fine. And I'm like, no, I don't like this idea. And I'm just so uncomfortable, and I'm just kind of like, I don't know
Yeah.
what to do right now.
He
So
couldn't leave his dogs at home?
right, I was like, why did you bring your dogs with you? And he's like, well, they like to go with me everywhere and blah blah. And I'm like,
Do they?
right. I'm like, really, wouldn't they have preferred to be in the air conditioned apartment? Like, I don't know about you, but that's where I would have rather have been. But okay.
So were they in the truck or in the back?
They were in the back with the back open, and he had
Okay.
like, their leashes tied, like
Oh,
tethered
no.
down to like they
No.
had slack, I will give it that, but I didn't
Yeah.
like that it's like they can lean over and potentially jump out of the truck and choke themselves because
Right.
they're tethered. And he was like, no, they're good dogs. Like everything that I was like bringing up as a concern, he was dismissing and be like, no, it's fine. You don't understand. They're not your dogs. They're my dogs. Like it was kind of like borderline offensive, but I was just like, all right, fine. Like they're not my dogs. So I guess. And so we
Ugh.
went inside. And the first thing I said is I was like, do you do this like all the time? Like, do you get in trouble with people? Like with like cops, like leaving them out? And he was like, no, I've never had a problem. And I was like, really? Like, it just didn't sound believable that you've never had an issue with bringing your animals somewhere and leaving them locked up in your
That's so
car.
weird. He brought his dogs.
I know. So then he's like trying to say this stuff with me. No sooner than I ask about the police, right? A cop car pulls up and pulls over in front of his truck. and starts investigating the truck, and that there's 3 dogs in them. One of them is like a German Shepherd. Like, these aren't like small dogs or like non-hairless. Like, these are full dogs. And so he gets up and runs away to go address the cop. One of the bar people who were like watching this whole debacle of my life got up and got a bucket of ice water for the dogs and brought that out
Oh,
there.
that's nice.
I
That's
know, but I
nice.
was so embarrassed at that point because I was like, people think
Like,
I'm
listen,
with
I don't
him.
know him.
Right? I was like, I'm not with him. Like, please don't judge me. I am not a
This
part
is
of
the
this
first time I'm
shenanigans.
meeting him, and he brought his dogs. Like,
Oh, yes. And that's
help
exactly
me.
what happened is because after he talks with the cop for like 15, 20 minutes, I didn't go out there because it wasn't any of my business. I wasn't about to stick
Right.
myself in that drama. So I sat inside. I waited for him to come back. And I'm being serious. It was like 10 to 20 minutes of him being gone. And I was like, I don't even know. Like, should I just leave? Like, we didn't order anything. We had just ordered drinks. The drinks had just come when all of this stuff started. So I
I
was
would
like,
have had
I
like
don't know what
3
to do.
drinks in that time. I've been like,
Right. So I started like drinking mine more, but at the same time, I'm like, I need like an exit plan. I think this guy's
yeah,
fucking nuts.
yeah.
Um, so he comes back in and he's like, everything's fine. And I'm like, I don't know, this just doesn't feel right. I was like, no. And and he just looks at me and he goes, do you want to go to a dog park? And I don't know, something about the way
I
he
was, I was kidding. When I said that.
no, and that's why I started laughing earlier, is because I was like, he already knows the entire story.
Oh my
Um,
god.
and he said it, and when he said it, just the way he said it made my stomach drop. And I was like, nope, I'm good. Thank you so much for the offer, though. And he was like, alrighty then, fuck you too, and got up and left. And I was like, oh, alrighty.
Like, you brought your dogs to a date, dude.
Right. I'm like, you didn't even say what like this might be a possibility. Like, you didn't bring any of this up. This is just like surprise. Like, and then you're mad at me because I didn't like your surprise that you randomly picked on your own.
Right. And it's not like you didn't like dogs, it's
No.
that you were concerned for them. You're like, this seems fucked up.
I have a 6-year-old pit bull. She's my baby,
Mhm.
but I don't bring her places.
No, you don't bring her on
with
dates?
people. No,
No. What
unfortunately,
what
no.
an idea. Leave the dog at home.
Right? Maybe that's what I've been doing wrong. I haven't been bringing my
Oh,
dog with.
maybe. Yeah. Just strap her to the back. She'll be fine.
Mm-hmm. No water, no need.
No, she's good. She's a good
Yeah.
dog. It's fine.
She just produces
Oh my
her own saliva at a random rate
Right.
by herself, you know? It's one of her magical
I mean,
powers.
was he assuming it was gonna be a short date because this happens to him so often?
I,
Maybe he was
that,
like, "Oh, they don't need water because I'm only gonna be here for 5 minutes," because she's gonna be like, "Yeah, I'm good."
oh, God. Well, that's what I asked. I was kind of like, what's, like, why? And that was his whole thing, was he was like, no, they're my children and they come with me everywhere and I don't care. And I'm like, but you're,
If
huh?
they're your children, you would have gotten a sitter.
Right. I'm like, you don't have a doggy daycare or not? Like, there's options if you don't like that one, but
Yeah, they're not having fun sitting in the back of your truck.
no, I'm
Like,
like, they're being ignored right now. And I'm
yeah.
like, and they're hot. I'm like, I'm hot
Mhm.
right now, but I've got AC. I'm like, I can't imagine leaving my dogs and then be like, no, it's no biggie. Just leave them there.
I
Like,
know.
what?
Wow.
Is that how you talk about like your children soon? 'Cause they're fine. Just leave them there. Like,
They're fine. They'll be fine. Don't
like
worry about them. They're mine. I know what I'm doing.
exactly. I got it. Oh,
Wow.
so needless to
Wow.
say, I did not hear from him ever again. Although
Oh,
I
what a
shouldn't
shame.
I shouldn't say that completely. I know that he's been like looking at my TikToks and like
Really?
yeah, like I found like he found me eventually and like tried to follow me or whatever. So like I like
For
jumped on
why?
there immediately and I was like, absolutely not, go away. Like, no thank you. Cheese me no likey. Um
Oh my
Um,
god.
so, and that was the end of that. But I just, the whole thing was very bizarre. And the best part of it was after he had left, like he stormed off and like said, like, you know, the whole profanity thing and leaves. Well, when he did that, all of the people who were at the bar who were still watching us, because I mean, there was probably like, this was like a little dive bar, so there's probably maybe only like 10 people at the bar. Like we
Oh,
were
so you were
center
giving them a
stage.
show.
Yeah,
Cool.
literally
That's
giving them
fun.
a show. So I decided I was going to finish my drink, pay for it, and leave. I was like, I just want to go home at this point. Like, I'm good.
Mhm.
At least he showed me quickly that he's nuts. So I
Right.
was like, at least I can be back home at a reasonable hour, I guess. I don't know. And so I go over to the bar to finish my drink and pay for it. And I even offered to pay for the drink that she had already poured for him, even though I
Mhm.
wasn't going to drink it because I didn't want it. I think it was like Jack and Coke or something, which isn't my style. But
Mhm.
so I bring it over there, and the bartender's like, "So is your boyfriend okay?" And I was like, "God, no." I was like, "Not mine. Like, that is not mine. I'm not associated. I just met him like 20 minutes ago." And everybody at the bar was like, "You guys just met? Like, this was date one?" And I was like, "Yep." And they're like, "Can we get you a drink?" And I was like,
Oh.
"Yeah, that would be fantastic."
Yes, you
And
can.
so
Please
they bought
do.
me like three shots
Well,
and
hell
like two
yeah. That turned out
rounds.
to be a
So
good night then.
yeah, exactly. So we started laughing about it. And we were talking about other things and all that. So I mean, at least my night wasn't ruined by it. You know, I thought it was funny eventually because I was just like, I can't imagine like how am I supposed to find my person like this? I'm like, if this is what's out there, I'm in trouble.
Oh no.
I'm like, how much are services like for them to like find someone for me? Because at this rate, I don't know what I'm doing.
Right?
Um, so that was that one, and then the other one, which has been the most recent date, is a bit of a longer story. So I'm going to try and paraphrase and
Go for it.
all of that.
I have nothing planned for this episode, so take your time.
Okie dokie.
Yeah.
So this one requires some background to understand. So, anyways, like I said, I'm 36, just for context of this story. So I had a friend who I met at a restaurant, and she was a waitress. So we exchanged numbers and we started talking. We ended up finding out that we had a lot of things in common, grew kind of close, not like crazy style, but I would say like surface level friends. Um, so she invited me to her daughter's birthday party at her house. And I was like, all right, I got nothing to do today. I'll go. So I go, and when I get there, she's super excited. She's like, all my family and stuff is here. All of her boyfriend's family was there. So she's like, it's just a lot of family here. So she's like, you can just relax and be yourself and whatever. She's like, nobody cares. And I was like, okay, I was going to do that anyway, but thank you. Um,
Thanks for your permission.
right. I was like, thank you for the reminder, I guess. So she points out a couple of people, and one of the people that she points out is a guy named Tim. And so I looked over at him and I said, hi, how are you? And he says nothing in response to me, walks right past me, like total a-hole vibes. I was like, okay, nice to meet you too, sir. And they were like, don't be offended. Like, that's just how he is with new people. I don't know why. And I was like, oh, so we just excuse behavior. Got it. Um,
Don't worry about Tim. He's a dick.
right. So the party goes on. I had nowhere to be, so I knew I wasn't going to be driving for a while. So I was like, and I don't care about any of these people because I don't know anybody. So screw it. I'm going to enjoy myself. I started having a couple of drinks, and I'm just talking with people randomly, about life, about how we know people, just things like that. Very fun, interesting conversation for a party, especially for a 1-year-old. How thrilling can it really get? But
Right.
so eventually, after I want to say about 2-3 hours of being there, I'm feeling good, but not crazy. And I notice Tim is now ending up almost in every single room that I end up in, like 5 minutes behind me. And I'm like, all right, this is kind of odd, but okie dokie. And then eventually, out of the corner of my eye, I see his brother, who is my friend's boyfriend, pushed Tim into a room with me and shut the door right behind him. And
What?
I'm like, am I at a 5-year-old's party? Like, what? I was like, what is this? So I see it, but I didn't say anything. I just kind of chuckled to myself. I was like, okay, obviously you're trying to push him to like talk to me. But again, like just from basic looks and like how his first demeanor was, I wasn't impressed with him anyway. I wasn't attracted to him. I was just kind of like, all right, I guess if you want to be a D bag, like that's your choice, but fine. And he really hadn't said much to me at that point. And so he finally starts cracking the egg and is like, so how do you know them? Like how long have you guys been friends? Where have what do you do for a living? Like he starts kind of grilling me for questions. And I didn't care because again, I wasn't doing anything, besides hanging out at a 1-year-old's party. So I went with the conversation. And eventually he kind of I want to say that first like 30 minutes of him getting to know me, quote unquote, is about the most time he let me talk. The rest of it was him being like, yeah, well, my life is this. And I guess his wife had just died like a year ago
Oh my god.
from cancer. And he had
So
4
sad.
daughters. And like he talked about his daughters and
Whoa.
like just starts kind of dumping. And I'm like, okay, like that's I guess I'll listen because I'm drinking my drink anyway. Why not? Um And so even when I would kind of leave the room to be like, okay, like that's kind of enough of this conversation, or that's enough of whatever it is that you're talking about. I've had enough of listening to it. I'm going to move. Again, like 5-10 minutes, he'd be trailing behind me. And I'm like, okay, this is kind of weird, but all right. So eventually, after a few more drinks, then I got a little less concerned with some boundaries where I was just kind of like, all right, I'll play a little bit here because I got nothing better to do. I haven't had any in a while. It's been a hot minute. Let's
See
play
what
for a minute.
happens. Yeah.
Exactly. I was like, why not? The alter ego came out and was like, do it. Um,
Little devil on your shoulder.
exactly. I was like, go have fun, even though this was not fun. More lessons were learned. So eventually we ended up like making out in the pool and talking until like 3 or 4 in the morning.
Wow.
We were talking
That
about like
escalated.
deep conversations about like mental health crisis and why people are the way that they are and thoughts about like who we are as individuals and stuff. And for me, like I love deep conversations. Like for any guy that is listening out there out of the 4 or 5 people who listen to this, deep conversations is the way to get to me. Like that's just I will sit there and talk for 12 hours straight about the universe and why it is the way that we are and our psychology, and I'm
Yeah.
fascinated by it. So I love to talk about that stuff, which is probably how he managed to get me alone for, a period of 3-4 hours. And like I said, we ended up making out towards the end. Again wasn't super impressed, but it was one of those things where you're drunk, so you're feeling fine with it. But then afterwards, you're like, oh God, why? Where I was just kind of like, I don't think this is my jam. I was like, nothing against him, but like, it just, I feel like even at that point, I was like, I feel like you talk about yourself an awful lot. And like, I feel like you still have so
That's
much.
charming.
Well, it was more from like an aspect of like I feel like you haven't healed from your wife dying.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure he hadn't. It had only been a year, right?
Right, exactly. So I was like,
Yeah.
I don't know why you're trying to like even play this game with me right now because you're just gonna get hurt. Like that's literally all that's gonna happen here. And so that was kind of another like moral question for me is I was like, how long do I play with this? Because I already can tell that this man is broken. So
Hmm.
there's I and that was another thing too with me with my personal journey is I'm at the time was very what's the word for it, mindful of I am not here to save anybody. I cannot
Hmm.
get into relationships to help someone else. I can't. And that was one of the biggest reasons driving force that I didn't play with this too long because I was like, I know you need help, but I can't be the one to give it to you. Like I
Right.
just no. Um because he talked about that. He talked about extensively about his one youngest daughter, and I believe she was like in her late 20s when her mom died. and she died like
Okay.
on the daughter's birthday.
Oh my god.
So right, incredibly sad, all of that, but, like, he
Yeah.
talked about how much her death impacted his daughter. It was almost like, "Dude, I get it, but, like, I'm not a therapist."
That's a heavy conversation for a first conversation too.
Yeah, and that's why, like I said, I mean, I get it, it was after a couple of drinks, and I think that's where
Mhm.
the benefit of the doubt was coming from for me, is I was just like, maybe just because that's where that went and it got kinda dark, it was like, "Alright, maybe he didn't mean to say all of that at once," because I do tend to bring out a side of people that they tend to just dump conversation onto me and go into, like, things that are bothering them, which I don't normally mind. I play a role. You know what I mean?
It means you're comforting. It means people feel
Exactly,
safe and, like, open around you, so
exactly,
that's not a
and
bad thing.
no, I think it's a gift, and I never feel typically burdened by it when talking with random people about it or anything like that. I actually enjoy it most of the time. But just with this conversation, like that's where it was like, I can't tell what you're about right now. Like, are you just trying to get like free services, like for therapy, or are you trying to
Right.
date me? I don't know what
Yeah,
is
that's not my
happening right now.
profession.
Exactly. I was like, I don't know what to do. So again, I figured I would never see him again after that night. I was like, or like I might see him randomly at parties or something. I was just like, I'm not going to pursue it. I'm good. End of story. Uh huh. Um,
Not end of story?
no, my son was just
No.
saying that he's leaving. Um, so not end of story, but he tells me at the end of the night that he was going to get my number from the girl, my friend, that he was going to get my number from her and that he would text me or something. And I was like, okay, great. Again, I figured she would reach out to me and be like, hey, by the way, like he wants your number. So, like I figured she would say something to me.
Why not just
Mm,
ask you for your number
that
in
too.
that moment?
That was weird, but I was like, okie
Yeah.
dokie, you do
I'm
you.
gonna find it in a different way.
Right, I was like, "You're gonna make it harder than you need to on yourself?
Right.
Alrighty, you do that. Let me know how that works out for you, sir." But, so again, I figured even through that path, I was like, "She's probably gonna ask me first because she didn't give me a vibe of, like, just giving out my number willy-nilly to people."
Right.
And she wasn't there for that part of the conversation with him, so from her perspective, she probably should have been like, "Why the hell would he want her number?" Um But no, like 4 hours later, he sends me a message and he's like, "Hey, it's me." And I'm like, "Okay." So I found it odd that she didn't ask me first. And he was like,
Mhm.
"Would you like to go to dinner tomorrow?" And I was like, I don't know."
Not really.
I know, I was like, I don't know. And again, that whole benefit of the doubt kind of thing kind
Mhm.
of chimed in. But then the other part of me was like, you know what? I'm not doing anything right now anyway. I haven't had a date in a while. Maybe he was just really nervous that first time. Again, 1 year out from his wife dying, I'm thinking, okay, maybe he just needs a redo. Maybe he's going to clean it
Yeah.
up tonight. Okay. Well, the first thing that he did that I really didn't care for, and we'll start there, is he asked for my address. And
Oh, no.
I was like, no, no, like I'll just meet you there. And he was like, no, no, I'm gonna come and get you.
No,
And I'm
you're
like,
not.
mm, mm. And again, it was like one of those things where I'm like, I don't know how to say this because of the entanglement with my friend. That I was like, this is why I don't date people, but like through people. Like I have to meet them on my own. I can't meet them through
Yeah.
friends. Um, but so I was like, all right, fine. And the only reason that I agreed to it was because I knew I was moving in 2 weeks. So even
Oh,
if, like, I was like,
that's awesome.
he won't remember where I live anyway. It won't be relevant in 2 weeks. So
Right.
it's fine.
That's perfect. That's fine then.
So I was like, all right, fine. Here's my address. And he tells me when he's going to be there, all that. He shows up. I come out. He comes out to open my side and help me get into the truck. Which, by the way, this truck, I want to say, like the door
It's
where
another truck?
yes, we're sensing a pattern here, Christina.
Oh, no.
Um, no more trucks apparently. Anybody with a truck, I'm sorry, you're out.
Sorry.
I just executive decision has been made here. I can't.
Yeah.
But
Christina said so.
but this truck, he said so. That's funny. But this truck started at like, or the door for it started at around like above my knee. So like I
Oh,
couldn't just like demurely get into this truck. Like I had to crawl to get into this bad boy.
oh my
I'm
god.
like, well, thank
There's
goodness I
no
wore
ladylike
jeans.
way to do this.
Right. I was like, thank goodness I wore jeans today and not like a cute, dress or anything because
Right?
my entire booty would be out. But okay. So we get in and we start driving. Now he's he's asking me where to go. And I'm like, do you need me to GPS or? And he was like, well, no, I have GPS, but can you just like point which way to go and like where am I going? And I'm like, so don't use your GPS, even though you used it to get here? What? So I was
Okay.
confused right away, but I was like, all right, fine. I know where we're going. So I guess. So I start telling him and stuff. And he goes, oh, wait, we're going to a pub, right? And I said, yeah. Why? And he goes, oh, hang on 1 second. So he unbuckles his seatbelt and then reaches into his pants and then pulls out a gun and goes,
What?
well, I guess I can't bring this in there and puts it
What?
in the middle console. And I'm like,
What?
what is I want to go home.
Oh
I want to go
wow.
home. Like
He
this
just whips out a gun.
yeah.
Okay.
And he's like, I can't bring them into bars. I have a concealed carry and I bring it everywhere mobile. And I'm like, okay. Like,
You never know on those first dates, you
well,
know?
I guess that just be crazy,
He's gotta be protected.
I guess that's all. I'm whatever makes you feel safe, I guess. But it was more like to me, it was like I felt like showboating, like look at me, I have a gun kind of vibe.
Yeah.
Because I was like, why did like
Mm,
you knew where we were going before you came to get me, so why didn't you put that in the console anyway? Like
right.
you chose to have that in your waist until you could show me. Like
You know
you
what's funny? I've heard so many fucked up stories, so when you said he reached in his pants, I'm like, "Oh, no."
Mhm. That's exactly
So,
when he
yeah.
did it. Like, let me tell you, like my whole body as a female was like, oh god.
Here it comes.
Right. I was like, it's worse than a dick pic right now. Like what is
A
about to
real live
happen?
dick.
Exactly. It's about to be like real life in person in your face. 3D. I don't know what. And then he shows the gun, and I'm like, I don't know which is worse to see right now. I
Right?
really
Like,
don't.
they're both a surprise.
Right? They're both not good surprises on a first date.
No. No.
I'm in a place.
Wow.
It gets better. It gets
Yay. Yay.
better. So he says that whole piece. He talks about like why he can't bring his gun in there, like almost like repeating himself on a cycle. Where I'm like, are you broken or something right now? Like I heard you the first time. Thank you. We love your gun. Fantastic. Moving right along. Like I don't know how long we can talk about your gun for. Like I'm good. I got nothing to offer to this because I don't know anything about guns. I mean, I've gone to some shooting ranges, but you wouldn't hear any of those stories because you don't let me talk. So,
Oh, yeah. Huh.
because that was the same type of behavior again the next day where it was just him talking the entire time, where I'm like,
So, he's not redeeming himself at all.
no, not at all,
Okay.
before we even get there. So immediately I'm already like, I'm checked out. I'm not really in this. Like I'll be polite because you drove here and basically you're captive, I guess, for the next hour. Fine. I guess I might as well get a good meal out of it. Um so we go as we get out of the truck, he tells me that he talked about me to his 35-year-old daughter.
What? He has a 35-year-old daughter, too?
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah, that part I was kind of like, that's kind of weird. I don't know that I want to
Yeah.
do any of this because,
Wow.
yeah. So I mean, because he was what 52, which is the oldest I've ever
Oh.
gone. But
Uh-huh.
again, I was like, I'm new, I don't want to say I'm new, but I felt like I had had enough of a break where it was like, I haven't been out in a while. I haven't had conversation in a dating format to try to, even for myself, of like practice, so to speak. And that's kind of how I was looking at this date, was this is just good practice for me, for, again, what to look out for, what's inappropriate, what's not, how to say something about it, how to be myself, all of those things that kind of go into dating. So that's where I was coming from, but just like it just was one red flag after another. So he tells me that he told his daughter about me, and immediately I'm like, why?
Yeah, why?
I'm like, my 16-year-old has no idea where I am right now.
Like, you don't know me. What did you tell her?
Right.
That's
I
what
was
I
like,
want to know.
what did you say? And he was like, well, I told her that we talked, and and then I like you, or so. It was very kind of like jumped around, beat around the bush, wasn't really giving me the full story of what he was saying to his daughter, which kind of bothered me again on another level, that I'm like, so did you tell her everything? Like, or did you make up a story here? Like, what is going on right now?
Right.
Because I was like, you literally just met me 2 days ago. You don't know anything about
And,
me.
like, he doesn't let you talk, so what is he telling her about you?
Exactly.
What does he know about you?
I was like, okay. And I'm just saying this for like future reference. I was like, just as another female, I said it might be a good idea not to like tell your kids right away about somebody. I was like, for a multitude of reasons. And he was like, well, no, you don't understand. I'm really close with my daughters. And I was like, okay, you do you.
Okay.
Um, So he says that, and I was weirded out by all of that. I was like, this girl is like the same age as me. I don't need her knowing about me. No. But
Yeah.
I was just odd by that. And
That
then,
feels icky.
yeah, it didn't feel nice at all. And then we order food, and we're kind of lightly talking about our day and like what we did and stuff. He ends up calling me lazy because that was an off day for me, meaning like one of my off days from work. Um,
Yeah.
so I had done some errands. I had painted that day, and just hung out with my dog. It was a very chill, laid back day. There wasn't anything crazy to do about it. And he was like, "Oh, it must be nice to just lay around and do nothing." And I was like, "It is." And I live by myself and pay all my bills by myself.
Right,
So,
and you did stuff.
right. And I was like,
To me, as lazy is like, I have not left my bed yet today, and it's, like, 3 o'clock.
right. Where I'm
That's
like,
lazy.
right. I'm like, you haven't even seen my level of lazy. Like, what?
Right.
Like,
I went
it's a
ran
whole new level.
errands.
What? I'm like, I put pants on today. That's
Right.
an achievement.
I left my house.
Right? I went outside and socialized with people. What?
Right.
So that, again, more red flags. And the kicker for
Yeah.
most of that conversation, and I will say this, is how much shit he talked about his own brother.
Oh.
The brother who set him up with me, mind you. Remember,
Oh,
the same brother who pushed him into rooms and was
okay.
like, go for it, go for it, go for it. All of this, right? Oh my God. Like 75% of that date was him talking shit about his brother, and
That's charming.
and again, mind you, I've only known all of these people for all of maybe 3 weeks. So like I barely know the people who I'm friends with. So,
Mhm.
so he starts dumping all of this stuff, and I'm like, I don't know what to do right now. And I was like, eventually he kind of looked at me like looking for me to agree with him, because his whole point was, he was like, well, he's an asshole, but I'm not an asshole. And I was like, okay, good for
You're kind of
you.
an asshole for telling that story.
That's exactly what I said. And so he
Is
kept
it?
doing it. He kept doing it. Cause at first I let it go. I kind of just like chuckled and like moved along. Like I wasn't going to pay it much attention, but he kept going. And I was like, and I said, you know what? I said, just because I already know that I'm not feeling this right now. I said, can I just give you a pointer? I said, you saying that you're not an asshole, I said, only kind of shows that you probably are one. I was like,
Mhm.
the fact that you have to keep saying it, like you're trying to convince me that you're not an asshole. I
Like
said,
he's trying to convince himself.
bro, that too. So that was just like, and I said the other part of it that bothered me with it is I said, those are my friends first. I said, so
Mhm.
do you think that I'm going to agree with you that they're assholes when those are my friends? Like, I'm not sure what kind of response you're expecting here, but I was like, I can guarantee you I'm not about to give it to you.
Yeah.
And he was like, well, you wouldn't understand because they're not, he's not your brother and blah blah. And I was like, okay, again, this is a first date.
Yeah.
This is a lot of drama that I want no part of.
I just
So
feel like in general, talking shit about anyone
yes,
is a bad move on a first date.
exactly. I mean, again, where it's you're just meeting the person, you're just getting to know about them. Like it's like cracking open the first chapter of a book.
Right.
And the way that you're going about this, sir, is like you want me to start at chapter 22 with, cramming
Right.
in chapters 1 through 20 in a matter of
Well,
five
and
minutes.
also, like everyone puts their best foot forward when they're on a
Hmm.
first date. That's a best version of themselves. That's the best version of him.
Yes.
That's as good as it gets.
Yes.
Ugh.
And that was going through my brain the entire time because again, I have a lot of empathy for people. I really do. And I get that, sometimes we all go through things and stuff like that. We need our time to heal. And I can totally resonate with again, you just lost your wife a year ago.
Right.
I'm sure that
Right.
was traumatic on your daughter's birthday, more traumatic, all these things where it's like, I feel for you, dude, but I'm not interested in dating you then. Like if you're gonna
Mhm.
tell me all this stuff right away, you're
Some
not
work to do.
yeah, you're not there yet. You're nowhere near where I am in my journey. Like, best of luck, but I'm good. So I had to stop at 7-Eleven for my son because he wanted some Gatorade. I go in to do that and he pulls out his wallet and I'm like, no, you don't have to pay for my son's Gatorade. Like, it's fine. And he was like, no, he tries basically to like lay it on thick, where he's like almost it came off like he's trying to redeem himself for being a douche. And so because that was the other thing he did too, is he asked at the restaurant, he asked if my son wanted anything. And I said, because my son was with me that time that week, he was home.
Mhm.
Um, so he was like, does your son want anything? And I was like, well, N I mean, I'll buy it, that's fine. And he was like, "No." He's like, "No kid should go hungry." And I was like, "Who said he was hungry?"
He's okay. It's like the dogs in the truck. He's fine.
Right, I was like, okay." But I took him up on it. I was like, "Fine, I'll take another buffalo sandwich or whatever." So,
Sure. Yeah.
he bought it. I didn't let him buy the Gatorade. I was like, "I can't. It's $4. It's fine." I was like, "Please, like, I got
Right.
it." And he seemed kind of like offended by it, which I thought was funny too. I was like, okay, like you have no game here right now, but sure, go ahead, be offended that I won't take your $4. Okie dokie. Um, so then we get out of the truck I go back upstairs and he goes to kiss me and I turn my
What?
cheek and I was like, oh, thanks. Like, I
He tried to kiss you after all of that?
yes, I was like, "I
Wow.
can't." I was like,
Okay.
"I can't." Clearly, we don't read signals, nor body language, nor uncomfortable
Ugh.
at all here, but okay. So I immediately, upon getting inside, I put everything down, and it was a beeline straight for the couch, plopped out, and called my girlfriend, who is the one who
Gave your number
introduced
to
us.
him?
Yes. So I
Yeah.
called her immediately, and I'm like, "What is going on?" I was like, is he mentally ill? Like, is there something that I'm missing here? Because I was like, all of these things that have just transpired in the last 3 hours, I don't know that I could make up. Like, I really, out of all of my experiences, and I've had some weird ones, like, I,
But thanks for the content.
right. um, so she first tells me, she goes, "I did not give him your number."
What?
And I said, "What do you mean you didn't give him my number? So how'd he get it?" And she was like, "He must have gone into my phone
No.
and gotten your number because she doesn't lock her phone."
Well, that's an issue too, but
I know. I was like, okay. Anyway.
wow.
So he went into her phone because she said that she didn't wake up until like 3 or 4 o'clock the next day after this party because we were up until like, like I said, it was a late night party.
That's a
Um,
wild first birthday party.
it was. It honestly was. It was a lot more wild than I was expecting it to be. I was like, way to prove me wrong, universe. Like, I thought this was just going to be like a few hours and I'm going to go home and have a good night. Like, yikes. I couldn't keep up with them. That's for sure. Um, but anyway, so she tells me that, and then I tell her, I'm like, well, I said, I'm just really uncomfortable. I said, so I'm not trying to make it a thing. I was like, there's nothing personal here. I'm not interested. And I said, can you just do me the courtesy whenever he's gonna be around to like let me know so that I'm not gonna be there. I was like, I'm good. I want no part of the drama. And she was like, no, totally. I understand. She was like, you don't even have to give me context. Cause I didn't want to like crap all over him. Like, even then, I was still like, I don't want to crap all over him as a person to his sister in law. Like,
Right.
that's your family. So and again, I don't know these people to know, is she going to be offended? Is she going to be, supportive of my side? Any of that. So I was just, I was trying to keep it light. And she said, I understand, no worries. It's totally fine. He's really out of practice. He hasn't tried to date anybody since his wife died. He was really nervous, this and that. And I'm like, yeah, that's great, but I'm good. Like, I'm not gonna replay here at
But
all.
like, does he need practice to be a person?
Hmm.
Because like, yeah,
So
dating's hard, whatever, but just to be a human.
so here's where, how they tell you sometimes to, you can only poke a person so many times and then eventually they snap, right? Okay, so
Yeah.
here comes my snap.
Oh, okay.
Um, because through talking with her, and we're just kind of talking about things very lightly, we're not really getting into it, and eventually she spills the beans that he told people that we slept together.
What?
Yeah,
What?
that I slept with him within 6 hours of meeting him.
Wow.
That I thoroughly enjoyed it. That he had to try to keep me quiet, like this whole fable of us sleeping together.
No.
And that he said something else too, and I can't remember what it was now. I know it
So
was
is he mentally ill?
that's I don't know. I think he should seek help if he's listening to
Yeah.
this.
He's one of our 4 listeners for sure.
Right? He's finally like, maybe I should get some tips.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um so she tells me that, and immediately I boil, and I'm like, nope, I can't. And I said, you know what? I said, here's some things to know. I said, first of all, we did not sleep together. I said, we made out. I said, his tongue touched my tongue. That's all that touched. Thank you very much.
Mhm.
I said, not that it matters, not that I feel like I have to, justify myself to you or to anybody else, but I was like, just so you're aware, this is my side. I said, you do with what you will, whatever, how you say it.
Mhm.
And I said, you should probably know a couple of things that transpired. So I told her about the gun. I told her about the daughter. I told her about how he talked mad shit about all of them and their lifestyle and like their jobs and all of that. And she was like, "Oh my god!" So she's pissed at this point. She's like, "What a," she just goes off. And I said, "So for all of those reasons, and now the ones that you just gave me, that he's lying about what we did and how all of this transpired, I'm not interested." I said, "So please make sure to keep him away from me if I'm ever at your house again." And she was like, "Nope, understood." She was like, "That's bullshit. I can't believe he would treat you like that, especially because you're my friend." Like, she was so pissed because she was like, "I just didn't think that he would be that stupid to say some of those things and to do some of those things." She goes, "We told him not to bring the gun because I guess he had said he was going to bring it, and they were like, 'No, leave it at home. Like, you don't need it.
Yeah.
It's fine.'" And he was
Wow, and he
he
made a
was
whole show out of it. and
Yeah,
everything. Wow.
exactly. I was like, "So you got pointers and chose to ignore them. Okay. Alrighty then," you know? And that was so then to fast forward in the last little update of that, like the ending of that story really, um, is I ended up going over there like another week or so later for, we called it a girls' day. So we were just going to have drinks, hang out in the pool. Um, I brought my dog with, so she was hanging out with us and her dog. So it was 3 or 4 females and we were all hanging out in the pool all day. Um, and as it gets later, I'm not paying attention to the time because I'm enjoying myself, all of that, right? Towards like 5, 6 o'clock when people would normally get home from work, Tim shows up. No warning, no nothing, shows up. And immediately, like I'm already in the pool and I have my drink with me and I immediately back up into the center of the pool because I'm like, nope, I want no part. Like I turn around, I start acting like I can't hear anything. Like I'm singing along to the music. I'm like, please make him go away. Like absolutely not. And eventually, like he went and sat down in the middle of there was like a fire pit in the middle of the yard, like right across from the pool. He sits down on the ledge of it and he looks like someone just shot his dog. Like he's like pouting basically off to
Wow.
the side. And so one of the girls comes up to me and goes, "Do you like you see him, right?" And I was like, "Oh, I see him." I was like, I'm not gonna play. No, thank you." And she was like, "Why is he acting like a toddler right now?" And I'm like, I don't know. I was like, I don't know if this is just who he is or he doesn't handle rejection well. I don't know. I was like,
Right?
this is odd. And I don't want to get out of the pool now because he's there, but I don't want to be here either because he's there. So I just, I'm like, all right, I guess I'll just continue swimming. um,
I live here now.
right. This is my new home. So eventually he goes into the house and I thought he left because I waited like another like hour before I got out after I saw him
Mhm.
go in the house. I was like, okay, he's got to be gone at this point. I asked the girl, my girlfriend, I said, "Is he gone?" And she goes, "I'm pretty sure." She goes, "I don't see him moving in the house anymore, like from the windows that we could see in. We're doing like a whole like spy version for me to get out of the freaking pool." I get out, I get up to the porch, and I've got a towel, and someone comes up behind me and puts another towel over my shoulders and starts rubbing. And I was
No.
like, no.
No.
And so I turn and look, and there's Tim rubbing away. Um,
What? Why are you touching me?
right? And so he leans over and kind of like says it in my ear, which made it even creepier that I can feel the
Oh.
moisture of your breath on my ear, sir.
Oh, no.
And he goes, "Did I scare you off?"
Uh-huh.
And I looked at him, I backed away from him touching me at that point, and I said, "Scared off is not the correct term for it." And I said, "There just seems to be a lot of issues that you're dealing with that I don't want a part of right now." And like that was my most sincere, most kindest way to put that without,
Yeah.
because again, I recognize that you're fresh into the dating scene. I don't want it to be a terrible experience for you because, all women suck. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
exactly. So I'm mindful of that kind of stuff. And again, I would hope that someone would be that mindful with me if they're not interested, to
Mhm.
at least say, best of luck. It's not for me. And that's what I said to him. His response was, "Well, yeah, I figured it was because of the age thing. You are kind of young and immature." And I was like,
Oh my
"What?"
god. He turned it around on you?
Yeah, and
Oh, that's amazing. Oh, I'm
he
so sorry it didn't work out. What a gem.
when he said that, my face, okay, I was like, "What in the," and so I started in front of him, I started and turned and looked around and went, "Is he talking to me?" And he was like, "Well, yeah, because 'cause you're just you're young. And I'm like, hmm. And he kept saying it and he wouldn't leave. He wouldn't leave me alone. So again, here comes the snap. So I looked at him and I said, sir, I said, the last guy that I dated for almost 4 years and wanted to marry was 8 years older than me. It's not the age.
It's you.
Right. I was like, I'm trying not to say it to be an asshole, but you're getting there. And he just
Mm-hmm.
kind of looked at me and was like, yeah, well, people are different or something, and that's just life or something like that. And I was like, uh-huh. Have a good one.
Yeah.
And I picked up my stuff and I walked inside so I could go change and go home. And
Have
then,
you interacted since?
about 2 weeks after that,
Oh,
he sends me a message and goes, what are you doing today? Maybe we can hang out.
what?
And so
What?
my response was probably better if we didn't.
That age difference is still a thing.
I was like, really?
Wow.
Really? So that was a longer story, but there was a
No, that
lot
was
there.
great. That was great. Oh my god. The delusion.
Extremely.
Typically you hear it more on like the girl side. Like I tend to be pretty delusional myself. Not like that though. That's a
Yeah,
whole new level. Like
yeah.
that's
That's a special
fascinating.
level. It's a special
Wow.
level. And that's
Wow.
what it was so fascinating to me. I was just like, is this real? Like, are you a real person? Because I was like, I don't understand you. Like, you're so nervous that you become a total butthead to people?
Right. Like you forget how to be a human
Right, like you forget who
who
this is,
interacts with other humans.
right? I'm like,
Wow.
you don't talk to people at work or is this how you talk?
Right?
I'm like,
Do you make up stories about them too?
I
Like
I
why? Whoa, that's wild.
yeah. It's so it just no. I was like, you need a lot of help, sir. And that was the whole
Mhm.
thing too, where I was like, I can't tell if you're just mentally ill or if you're just holding on to a bunch of crap you haven't processed yet.
It could be both.
It could be both.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, needless
Wow.
to say, I haven't been on a date since.
When
Um,
did this happen?
this was in July.
Oh wow.
Yeah, that was
So
my
this is
last date.
recent.
That was my last date.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Is Did you tell Cindy this story?
No, I didn't. I haven't
Okay,
told
because
you this
that's
story.
about when I was like, "Hey, you should be on my podcast," and she's like,
Yeah,
"Oh, I have a friend for
this
you."
this story came up immediately in my head when she reached out to me and said like I have something for you to look into and blah blah. I was like, I have stories. Oh, do I
She's like,
have
"I have a
stories?
friend for you to talk to." So I'm like, "Oh, maybe it's no." That's just that's just a fun timing then. Wow.
Yeah,
That's great. I mean, not great
yeah,
for you, but like
yeah.
great
It
for the
was
story. Great for the plot.
it was a learning experience, I guess. That's all I can call
Yeah.
it. I mean, I got free food out of it, I guess.
There
I
you
got a
go.
decent meal. My kid got fed for the night. I didn't have to cook. There's some
There
positives.
there's the rainbow. Um I don't want to like shit on 52-year-olds, but like I dated a 52-year-old as well,
Mhm.
and he was kind of cuckoo too. So,
Yeah.
I mean,
It's something in their age group, man. I don't know.
maybe because I was like, oh, I found this great guy. This is gonna be so great. Nope. So I don't know if you've listened. I think we've had a lot of episodes, but Christmas guy was 52. Well, he turned 52 afterwards, but yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Mm. Wait. No, his name's not Tim. Never mind. Also, not a widower. Why can't I say that word? Widower. Yeah.
Excuse me.
Oh no, I've been doing the whole podcast.
But yeah, so that was a strange one, and funnily enough, um, it's weird because I almost feel like I met that chick specifically for that to transpire. because ever since then, we haven't seen each other. We haven't really talked much. And like I've reached out to her and been like, hey, like let's get together for drinks. Let's, get the dogs together. Something with just her. And she's taken like weeks to respond to it and stuff. And I'm like,
Oh,
okay,
interesting. I wonder if he said something.
I don't
Made up some
know.
other wild story.
If they want me to be the villain in that story, I'll gladly wear that crown. That's
Yeah.
fine.
I'd be like, sure, whatever works for you. Just stop talking to me.
Right, exactly. Just go away with all of your nonsense. I can't. I'm like, I'm too busy for all of this. Y'all have too much time on your hands if this is what you do
Right.
with your lives. Like you're in everybody's business. Like it like gave off the vibes of like, a small town where everybody knows everybody and like the families like all know each other and it's almost like
Yeah.
Children of the Corn kind of thing. That's what that reminded me of. Is I was just like, you all know each other way too much here. Like
Well, it's also a strange event to invite someone you just met to. Like, I don't know that I'm inviting my friends to family things.
Yeah, I mean, part of that was weird for me as well, where I was just kind of like, I don't really know you. I don't really know your kids. I don't really know your situation. But at the same
Mm-hmm.
time, too, I think I came from it at an aspect of, well, it's a party, so it's laid back, I guess, to get to know
Yeah.
somebody, where it's kind of, I feel like it is taboo, but I, at least in that moment, was like, I get why she's doing it because she just wants another girlfriend there.
Right.
But,
And great for the plot.
yeah, more content. We love to see it.
It builds character, right? Do you have enough character? Because I feel like I have enough character.
I have way too much character at this
I'm
point,
so
Christina.
well developed. I don't need more character.
That's what I keep telling the universe. I'm like, okay, we've learned enough. Can I have
I'm a very interesting person already.
right? Thank you. I've got enough stories to fill many, many books. I'm good. Can we pass those along to someone else now? Like, share the wealth. I don't know what to tell you, but stop sending them to me.
Right. So I'm assuming you have more stories.
Oh, I have tons. I mean,
Oh,
obviously,
I might have to have you back.
I'd love to be back.
I'm gonna have you back. I'll have you back, and we'll have Max actually show up.
Okay.
This, again, he's sick, so it's not his fault. But
Yeah.
I showed up, so
Yeah. That's what counts. Gold star
right.
for Christine.
I'm the star, so it's fine.
Starring Christine, co-starring Max.
Right? No, it's my podcast. Let's be real. So yeah, we'll have you back, and we'll hear some more fun stories. But I can't wait for him to hear that one because he's gonna love it. So,
Yeah. It takes a minit, but it just keeps
no, it's
getting
worth
weirder
it.
and weirder.
Worth it.
Right when you think it's done, it just shows up again. Like a bad boomerang.
Right? Oh wow. It just kept getting better.
Yeah, or worse, whichever way you want to
Worse, yeah,
call it.
yeah. Worse for you.
It was like a small garbage fire at first, and then eventually the whole restaurant was on fire,
Yeah. Burn down the town.
Exactly. Oddly, funnily enough, the restaurant that we were at, or the pub, right next door was a fire department.
That was your sign.
Right? It
That was
like,
your
"Not
red flag.
here." Don't do it, Sam.
Yeah. Like, we are here to put out this fire. Wow, that's amazing. Well, thank you so much for sharing.
So,
And thank you for joining. And we'll definitely have you back. And I want to hear more stories because you've
yeah.
got some good ones, I'm sure. Because you already told me a couple good ones. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
I'll definitely work on them.
No more trucks.
No more trucks.
No more trucks. That's a question that we're going to ask when we meet
Yeah.
people. Do you drive a pickup truck?
Right.
If so, no thank you.
Right. So sorry. Not
It's just a rule now.
Right, it's a boundary.
Yeah. Everyone who drives a pickup truck's like, no.
Right. They're all like, man, my fat.
Yeah. Sorry, get a different car. This is your problem.
Right, trade it in.
That's a you problem now.
That's definitely a you problem. Go trade it in if you want to trade up.
Right. Okay. Well, thanks again.
Thank
And
you.
it was fun chatting, and we will do it again.
Definitely. I hope you feel better as well.
Thanks, you too.
Thanks.
All right.
Right.
Bye. Bye. It was a great conversation with Sam. I'm really glad that she was able to join us and tell us her story. Um, yeah, I can't wait for Max to listen to those. So, I'm not going to cut much. So, I'm just going to keep this end part short. So, be sure to follow us on Instagram at NoDPixPod, everywhere else at NoDPixPod. You can find us on Facebook at No Dick Pics Podcast. Please be sure to follow us there. The full video of all of our podcasts is posted there, starting from the breakup. Anything before that doesn't have a video, but the breakup on has been posted to the Facebook page if you want to watch the podcast and not just listen to it. Um, yeah, be sure to rate, review, subscribe, all the good things, and we will be back with Max and another great episode of the No Dick Pics podcast. So thank you so much for joining us. Bye.